Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I wanted to make a review of the Toreador car that was added as part of the Cayo Perico Heist DLC. I'm sorry I'm kind of late on this. I've just been busy with other projects like Red Dead Online and also San Andreas. But anyways, we're going to be reviewing the Toreador here. And the Toreador, this is a 4-seater car that has submersible ability, very similar to Stromberg. It also has missiles and machine guns similar to Stromberg. The vehicle costs $3,660,000. There is no trade price for this vehicle, so that is just a default price. So how does this car actually handle, and how does it compare to the Stromberg? So starting off here, I wanted to do a speed test, and I want to thank my friend Carlos for helping me to record this, and this test will be sped up to save time. But as you guys can see, I'm racing the Stromberg right here, and I get a little bit of a head start, not by much, but I think that's because of the acceleration, because the Toreador appears to have a little bit better acceleration than the Stromberg. But once we both max out at speed, when the Toreador maxes out at speed and the Stromberg maxes out at speed, it's pretty much the same thing, very similar to each other. You can see I'm not getting away from my friend isn't catching up to me, so it's not really noticeable. If you compare both the Stromberg and the Toreador in a speed test, there isn't really much of a difference. However, there is a difference if you use the boost. If you use the boost, you're going to obviously destroy the Stromberg in a speed test, but if you're just racing the Stromberg in just regular speed, then the Toreador is pretty much the exact same speed as it. I don't really see much of a difference personally. But how does the Toreador do against other vehicles with a boost? So I decided to race my friend again, this time to the top of Paleto Bay, and in this race we're racing the Toreador versus the Oppressor Mark 1, and that's because it has a boost on the ground which it can constantly replenish, similar to the Toreador. And I'm speeding this clip up, but as you guys can see, the Oppressor, it just gains much more speed than the Toreador. The Toreador is still decently fast. It is a very fast vehicle, don't get me wrong. It's one of the fastest cars in the game, especially with the boost. But you guys can see right here that the Oppressor Mark 1 is beating it. So if you're going basically a straight line, you're going down the highways, the Oppressor Mark 1 is going to beat the Toreador. Additionally, if we test it against another vehicle like the Vigilante also beats the Toreador, so the Vigilante goes much faster than the Toreador. While the Oppressor Mark 1 was somewhat faster than the Toreador, the Vigilante is much more noticeable. So if you're racing a Vigilante against a Toreador, even if you're both spamming boost, Vigilante is just much faster than it. But that's not to say that the Toreador isn't a fast vehicle, like I said, because it having the boost on here, you can easily get across the map, no problem with the Toreador still. But the speed tests aren't over just yet. We're going to still do an underwater speed test, and this is the first underwater speed test that I've ever done, in which the Stromberg is going to be versing the Toreador. And I even let my friend get a head start, so I let him get a little head start because I was pretty confident that the Toreador would catch up. And note, I am not using boost. If I was using boost underwater, because this vehicle also has boost underwater, I would be able to easily pass the Stromberg right away. But even without boost, just using the regular speed, the Toreador is eventually going to catch up and pass the Stromberg. It's generally faster underwater. Now this clip is also sped up to save time, but you guys can see the Toreador will eventually catch up to the Stromberg, so the Toreador is just a faster vehicle underwater. Additionally, underwater, the Toreador can use sonar, and with sonar you can actually look for hidden caches. So these are things that you can collect underwater, little boxes, and each of them is worth 7,500. You can pick up 10 a day. They respawn the next day, which means in total you can get $75,000 from this. So what I recommend doing if you're going to be using the Toreador for this, activate sonar, then look at your map, and then just mark every single one of the points of interest. And you don't even need to be in a vehicle like the Toreador or even a vehicle with sonar. You can simply dive and collect all of them, but you need to know where they are. So using the points of interest is great for that. And with the Toreador's boost underwater, it makes traveling underwater faster than any other submersible vehicle. You can also take the Toreador on land, boost on the highway, and then jump off in the water wherever that hidden cache is. So it's great for that. Now in terms of other jobs, because the only other job underwater that I could think of is Salvage. Salvage is a VIP challenge in which 2 or more players, between 2 to 4 players, can compete to collect various checkpoints underwater. Now, the Stromberg was really bad for Salvage. The best way to do it was with a scuba diving suit, and the reason the Stromberg was really bad is because it could hook onto many things. It wasn't fast at turning. It just wasn't great for picking all of them up because a lot of these checkpoints are in pretty tight locations. Now, the Toreador is a little bit better because with boost, you can collect these checkpoints faster. But in the end, I personally believe it's still better to use a scuba diving suit in terms of picking up checkpoints underwater for salvage. When it comes to hitting caches, no problem with the Toreador because it's just one thing. But when you're picking up like 50 checkpoints in such a small area, scuba diving suit is going to be much better because you're just much more agile. You can cut into places that are much more tight versus a Toreador, which you can hook onto a lot of things down here. But other than that, it's a great submersible vehicle. Now let's talk about weapons. Now, the Toreador has 3 weapons: machine guns, missiles, and torpedoes. Let's talk about torpedoes since we're already underwater. In comparison to the Stromberg, I don't really see much of a difference. Now, it was a little difficult to test the torpedoes side by side, because underwater tests are always more challenging. But from what I've seen, they appear to be the same thing. So it looks like the Toreador torpedoes are the exact same thing as the Stromberg torpedoes. These, in reality, aren't really going to have that much use. They are a nice feature, don't get me wrong, but I don't really see many players using, torpedoes. When our players going to sink other players, it's not really going to happen at that much. The chances of you encountering another Toreador underwater, or even a Stromberg, or even a Koshatka underwater attacking you is very slim. I just don't see a lot of people using this, but they appear to have the exact same range as the Stromberg torpedoes, and the Stromberg additionally has 60 torpedoes, where the Toreador has infinite. So the Toreador can just keep shooting. Now, I don't know whether this is a glitch or not, because maybe Rockstar, overlooked something, and maybe it's not supposed to have unlimited torpedoes, but just keep in mind, it does have unlimited torpedoes. This could be changed later on. I have no idea. Now, as for the other weapons, the machine guns, these are very similar that we have like on other vehicles, like, on the Ruiner, on the Vigilante. It's like the Stromberg. It's very similar. You just use the machine guns on here to spray. You just hold down L1 on the PlayStation. I'm assuming this will be LB on the Xbox. These machine guns can blow up a lot of cars in front of you, but at the same time, what's annoying is that you can't use drive-by weapons. Now, why would you want to use drive-by weapons for more precision shooting? Now, if you want to shoot somebody out of a vehicle without blowing them up, that's where drive-by weapons could come in handy, like an AP pistol. Unfortunately, you can't use a drive-by weapon here. But what about the missiles? The missiles are the most deadly weapon on the Toreador. And right here, I have a side-by-side test against the Stromberg, and I'm also speeding this clip up. But as you guys can see, the Stromberg has 30 missiles in total. The Toreador has infinite missiles. So the Toreador can keep shooting and shooting and shooting. And like I said, I don't know if this is a glitch or what's going on, because other vehicles don't tend to have unlimited missiles like this. A lot of vehicles, they cap the amount of missiles. So this could change, just saying. But in terms of these missiles are just crazy. They can demolish any area really fast. They're very precise. They're very accurate. They're not like buzzard missiles. They're very similar to Stromberg missiles, where they will hit targets. So whenever you have like even a small target, they'll curve around and hit that target. You can see right here just me destroying the police, and even when it blew up the helicopter. When it comes to fighting Oppressor Mark IIs, if you fired this missile at an Oppressor Mark II, they can dodge it, but it becomes very difficult because the missile will track and follow small targets. Not like buzzer missiles where they're easily dodgeable. Now, if somebody has flares on Oppressor Mark II, they're not really going to be able to dodge this because you can just spam and it'll hit them. If somebody activates chaff beforehand, that's where it can be a little bit more difficult. Now, when it comes to actual combat between the Toreador and the Oppressor Mark II, if an Oppressor Mark II is coming right at you from the front and they fire a bunch of missiles at you, hit boost. Because if you hit boost, like me and my friend Carlos were testing right here, then you can actually cause the missiles to hit the ground. Because they're aiming right at you, they're not going to have enough time to turn, and the missiles are just going to hit the ground and blow up. However, though, if the missiles are coming up behind you, if the Oppressor is trying to shoot you from behind, it's very difficult to actually dodge these missiles from the back. Unless you drive into some cover really quickly, you will not really be able to outrun these missiles, even if you activate boost at the last second. Very difficult to do so. Now, I've had success against the Oppressor Mark II. I've blown it up a few times, but my friend has also blew me up a bunch of times. So, yeah, I'm guessing that it depends on the driver, on both the Oppressor Mark II and the Toreador, on who will win. But when it comes down to it, I still think the Oppressor Mark II has more of an advantage because the Oppressor Mark II just easier to spawn. easier to take off with. It's the fact that it's in the air as well, so it can shoot you from so many different angles. The Oppressor Mark II has countermeasures, the Toreador doesn't. So when people say that the Toreador is a counter to the Oppressor Mark II, I wouldn't really say that. The Toreador is a way to fight back against the Oppressor Mark II, just like the Stromberg and the Ruiner, but I wouldn't say that it's a complete counter, because if somebody's really good on an Oppressor Mark II, they can blow up Toreadors no problem, at least in my opinion. And lastly here we have a damage test, so I wanted to compare both the Stromberg and the Toreador. Now in terms of RPGs, the Toreador takes 2 RPGs to blow up, so I'm happy that it at least takes 1 RPG to blow it up. Now for the Stromberg, 2 RPGs. So in terms of RPG damage, they take the exact same. Now how about Oppressor Mark IIs? How much damage can they take from that? The Stromberg takes a total of 6 missiles. So 6 missiles from the Oppressor Mark II, and it's blown up. How does the Toreador go? The Toreador takes 6 missiles from the Oppressor Mark II. So in terms of armor, I'm going to say they're both the exact same. Very similar armor, 2 RPGs, 6 homing missiles from an Oppressor Mark II. Very similar armor. I'm not really disappointed. I like that it can take a decent amount of missiles from the Oppressor Mark II, and I like that it can at least take 1 RPG before it blows up. And here at the end we have the pros and the cons. And the pros are, it has great boost and speed. In regular top speed, it's very similar to Stromberg, but with the boost, it's one of the fastest vehicles in the game. And it can also boost underwater, which is definitely a great ability. There are other vehicles that are faster than it, like the Oppressor and the Vigilante, but with the boost, it's still one of the fastest vehicles in the game. And it has infinite missiles, which is something rare that you see in a vehicle like this. You would think that this vehicle would have a certain amount of missiles, and like I said, this could be changed later on. This might have just been something that Rockstar oversaw. And it has a sonar mode, so you can find hidden caches underwater, use the boost, pick them up easily. It has a 4-seat capacity, so it can carry 4 people, unlike the Stromberg, which can carry 2 people. It has good armor for a car. It takes 2 RPGs, and it takes 6 homing missiles, so I think it does have decent armor for a car. And it can be stored in the submarine. We didn't really cover this much, but you can store it in the Koshatka. So in the Koshatka, you can store it, and you can keep it in the Koshatka, and you can drive it out of the Koshatka, which is definitely a nice feature. And the cons are, it's very expensive. This is over $3 million, and there's no trade price. So there's no way to unlock a trade price for this vehicle. And you can't use drive-by guns, which I mean that you can't use guns like an AP pistol for precision shooting. But that's pretty much it for the cons. I can't really think of much on this. This vehicle is definitely worth it. It's going to be one of the best vehicles in the game, and I could see people using this for years to come. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys enjoyed my review, drop a like, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.